Once upon a time in a small, quiet town, there lived a woman named Grace. She was kind but always seemed a little sad. She worked as a librarian, loved books, and lived alone in a cozy little house by the woods. Grace had no family, or so people thought. One rainy afternoon, Grace saw something unexpected on the news. An orphanage in the city was closing. The children needed new homes. Grace's heart ached. Something inside her told her she had to go. At the orphanage, Grace met a boy named Alex. He was 9 years old, quiet, and had eyes that looked older than his age. When their eyes met, something strange happened. Grace felt a deep connection she couldn't explain. Grace adopted Alex and brought him home. At first, it was hard. He didn't talk much. He had nightmares. But Grace was patient. Slowly, he opened up. They cooked together, read books, and laughed more and more each day. One stormy evening, while playing hide and seek, Alex found an old dusty box in the attic. It was locked. Curious, he showed Grace. Her face turned pale. "That box! I haven't seen it in years," she whispered. Later that night, Grace opened the box. Inside were old photos, letters, and a birth certificate. One photo caught Alex's eye. "Wait, that's me as a baby," he said. Grace was stunned. How was that possible? Grace sat down, holding back tears. "Years ago, I had a baby. I was very young. My family forced me to give him up. I thought I would never see him again. That baby was you." Alex couldn't believe it. He had found his real mom without even knowing. From that day on, everything changed. Grace was no longer just his adoptive mom. She was his real mom. They started going on walks together, painting together, and even wrote a book about their story. Years later, Alex stood on a small stage at a school, reading from the book they wrote. "This is the story of how I found my mother, and how love never forgets." Grace sat in the front row, smiling through her tears. Now, Grace and Alex help other kids find homes. Their house is always full of laughter, cookies, and love. And every night, they look at the stars and thank fate for bringing them back together. 3 years passed. Alex was now 15, taller, more confident, and full of ideas. He and Grace had become closer than ever. Their little home was filled with books, warm meals, and love. One weekend, Grace said, "Let's finally fix up the old guest room." It hadn't been touched in years. Together, they peeled back the faded wallpaper, and that's when Alex found something strange. Tucked between wooden planks was a small yellowed envelope. It was addressed to Grace from her mother. The date? Over 20 years ago. With shaky hands, Grace opened the letter. "My dear Grace," it began, "if you ever find this, I want you to know I was wrong for making you give up your baby. I loved you. I was just afraid. I hope one day you'll find peace." Grace wiped her tears. "I never knew she felt sorry," she whispered. But at the end of the letter, there was something strange. "There's more I left behind. The truth about your father and your real name." A few days later, they traveled to the countryside, to Grace's childhood home. It was abandoned but still standing. Grace hadn't been there in 25 years. In a dusty trunk in the attic, they found old papers, photos, and a birth certificate. Grace learned her father wasn't who she thought. Her real father was an artist, kind, loving, but he had died before she was born. Her mother had kept it secret. Back home, Grace finally felt whole. She sat Alex down and said, "Your grandfather was a kind soul, and now his kindness lives on in you." Alex smiled. "I'm glad we found this. I feel like we unlocked a part of your heart, not just mine." They framed the letter and placed it on the wall. It reminded them that even painful pasts can lead to beautiful futures, and that some stories, no matter how long buried, are meant to be found. Today, Alex is writing a second book, this one about family secrets, forgiveness, and the power of love. Grace cheers him on every step of the way. Their past didn't break them. It built them. In the walls of an old house, they found truth. In each other, they found home. And in every page of their story, they discovered that love, no matter how late, always finds a way.